Well, I'm back again. It has been a very long time since I have done this. It's been close to 10 months or longer. Sorry that it's taken so long. Hopefully, you are still watching this if you are interested in this. What has taken so long for me to do this is I've been in process of moving to a different state. I used to live in Illinois, and now I live in southeastern Kentucky in the mountains of the Appalachian Mountains. I'm on staff with a ministry called Camp Nathaniel, or Scripture Mountain Memory Mission, and that's where I'm living now. And we'll hopefully be doing more filming more regularly as I have time. We're very busy here, but I have the time to do it, recording on Sundays and possibly Saturdays and some other times. So I'm anxious to get back into doing it, and hopefully you're still getting notifications when this comes up. If not, you can resubscribe or however all that works. This particular video, I'm going to get back into doing the videos again, but I'm also want to do some topical things that people have requested when I was up north and never had a chance to do it. This particular lesson will be on Genesis 23, 24, and 25. And so let's begin. As I've said before in the past, take some time to read it for yourself and study it on your own. And then hopefully, I would pause it now and before I begin and taught and get the understanding, because these 3 chapters are pretty quick. There's a lot of wording to it, but it's easy to explain. So again, I'd pause now and we'll begin. So in chapter 23 in Genesis, Sarah has now died. Abraham is looking for a place to bury his wife since he is not living. They're not living in their home country, so he has no burial grounds. And so he asks if he could buy a piece of land or a grave site so that he can bury his wife. And he basically goes back and forth amongst the Hittite people and this man who ends up having a plot for sale, but they basically are trying to tell Abraham he doesn't have to pay for it, he can have it for free, but he doesn't want to have it for free. He actually wants to pay for it so that it is his plot. And so finally, after a while, a guy named, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Melchipela, sells him his burial stone, or his burial cave, for 400 pieces of silver. And so that's basically what all of chapter 3 is about. But again, I would recommend you reading it for yourself. Chapter 4 goes into then Abraham, because he now has no wife, he feels that he needs to find Isaac a wife. And Rebecca, as I said, just said by accident, is actually who his wife becomes. But Abraham doesn't want him to take a wife from the nation he's in. He wants him to take a wife from his hometown where he came from. So he sends one of his servants with instructions to his home country, and basically some camels and a bunch of other stuff, gold. And he goes there, and the servant prays that God would give him a good result for his servant Abraham. And in fact, God does. And so the man meets this woman, Rebecca. Not only does he meet her, but he meets her at a well. She gives him something to drink, and she basically gives all the camels enough to drink. So she serves him and the camels. He serves him as well as serving him with his camels by watering his camels. And through that time, he ends up having a conversation with Rebecca's family, and then they end up coming to an agreement, and Rebecca is actually willing to go, and so she ends up going to becoming Isaac's wife. So that's basically all of chapter 24, excuse me. Then you get to chapter 25, and 25 is actually sorry if I'm looking at my phone because I have my notes there. In Genesis chapter 25, now Abraham has taken another wife, It talks about he takes another wife, and then he has some more children, and it goes into basically the first 6 verses are about his genealogy, and the gifts that he had given to his son Isaac before he dies, and then it says that Abraham died when he was 175 and he breathed his last, and so Isaac and Ishmael, if you remember, there was Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac is his son with Sarah, when Ishmael was his son with Haggai. They were both there. They buried their father together. Yeah, and so then it begins. So Abraham dies, and then the rest of the chapter, at least up to verse 19, is basically a genealogy of Ishmael and of Isaac. And if you calculate from Ishmael and Isaac, and I may have said this in the other video, Isaac is typically considered the father of the Jewish nation, and Ishmael is considered the father of the Islam nation, Islam religion, and Isaac, the Jewish religion, or nation, either one. But as God said, he would bless Abraham's descendants. So not only did he bless Isaac's descendants, but he also blessed Ishmael's descendants, because God is a promise-keeping God. What he says he's going to do something, he does it, even if man sins or gets in the way of that. God still fulfills what he has promised. And then starting in verse 19 of Genesis 25, it's the birth of Isaac and Esau. Jacob and Esau, sorry. Esau being the older, they're twin brothers. Rebecca is barren for a while, and she prays that God would provide her a child, and God actually provides her twins. And the twins, Esau was the first one born, and Jacob was the second. But she noticed that in the womb it seemed like they were fighting. And sure enough, that's what the Lord said to her, that there's 2 nations in her womb. This is verse 23. And the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in your womb, 2 peoples from within you shall be divided. The one shall be stronger than the other. The older shall serve the younger. And it's very interesting. It says the older shall serve the younger. In the Jewish culture, or in that culture in that time, the oldest son, would get the inheritance full on everything, and everybody else would serve him. But in this case, it's saying the younger brother will actually, the older brother will serve the younger brother. So in verse 24, when Rebekah's days, her days to give birth were complete, behold, there were twins in her womb. So like I said, Esau came out first, but it says that when Esau came out, Jacob was actually holding Esau's foot with his hand, and basically came out with him. And then it says that Esau was a skillful hunter, and Jacob was more of a man of the field. And here's the thing about this. So Isaac loved Esau because he was like him, where they both liked to hunt, and they were probably, in a sense, more mechanical, if you want to use that phrase. And Rebekah loved Jacob because Jacob was more in staying home in the fields and things like that. So the end of chapter 25, Jacob was cooking stew, and Esau came back from the field, and he was exhausted, starving, and he basically tells his brother Jacob, give me something to eat. And Jacob says, well, I'll give you something to eat, but only if you swear to give me your birthright. And basically, his birthright means that he would get, the birthright is he was the older brother, so he had all the rights to the inheritance, so everything would go to him. And Jacob says, well, let me have the birthright. I want to have the inheritance for myself. If you give me that, I will give you something to eat. And Esau was like, well, what good is it if I'm dead? So he agrees, and he sells his birthright for a bowl of soup, which, in all fairness, was not the right thing to do. He was not trusting in God. The history of the way God blessed the oldest son, he should have just realized that God was going to spare him and that he would find something to eat somewhere else and still live. But he didn't have faith in God that God could provide that. So he sold his birthright and Jacob took it. And that takes us to Genesis 26, which we will look at next time. I hope you enjoyed it. I am going to try and keep these within 10 to 15 minutes, not like the first couple I've done. And it'll be a lot easier to record. And like I said, just read them ahead. And hopefully you enjoyed it. And hopefully I'll get back into doing this more regularly. It's been great talking to you again. And talk to you soon from southeastern Kentucky. Bye-bye.